Welcome students. We will continue with the de novo ligand design. In previous lectures, we have seen that the de novo ligand design can be classified into three types: active site analysis method, whole molecule methods, and fragment based methods. We have covered active site analysis methods in our previous lectures. I will continue with the whole molecule methods and the fragment based methods in this video. Now, the whole molecule methods, this a technique fits entire ligands into the receptor active site using either a shape complementary approach alone or coupled with the electrostatic fitting. Now, this is nothing but a docking methodology wherein the shape of the receptor is matched with the shape of the ligand alone, or it may be coupled with the electrostatic fitting. That means the electrostatic interaction ligand and the receptor atoms may also be considered when you are fitting a ligand into the receptor site. So this complementary alone approach alone method is used in DOCK computer program, and it may be coupled with an electrostatic fitting wherein it is used in Autodock program. What are the advantages of this? You are already docking or in this fitting known or synthetic compounds that are generally studied hits, and these compounds can be readily tested. That means you have the known database of the compounds which are synthetic origin and which are hits in other studies, and this can be readily be tested. These methods can be used to screen larger fragments which can act as a starting point for construction of novel ligands. Not only you can uh, fit the entire ligand, you can fit larger fragment as well, which can start as a starting point for construction of novel ligand. Disadvantage is that it is too much time consuming. It requires almost a week to explore a database of 1 lakh compounds. However, this can be improved if you are using a higher end machine, that is with a greater RAM or with greater CPU capabilities. This can uh, come down say to 3 days, or you can make it to half, but still it is a longer time. It is also a rigid body search. That means the database which you are screening contains only one conformation of the ligand. We are not allowing to check for another conformation. Say uh, a classic case of chair versus uh, board conformation of a cyclohexene ring. Say if only the board conformation is stored in the database of these ligands, and if a chair conformation is more appropriate to fit the active site, the it is missed out. That means the board conformation is will not be able to interact with the active site, although a cyclohexene ring is advised at that, but since the database has stored only the board conformation of that cyclohexene ring, it has not stored the chair conformation, you are likely to miss on a possible hit. Now the next type of de novo ligand design methods are fragment based methods. These are again classified or sub-classified into four methods, that is site point connection method, fragment connection methods, sequential build-up methods, and random connection and disconnection methods. First, we'll look at the site point connection method. What is a site point? It is a point in space uh, at which a suitable ligand atom, that is, the ligand atom can make favorable interaction with one or more enzyme atoms. For example, in the vicinity of a phenylalanine side chain, there will be favorable hydrophobic site. That may hydrophobic site. So, if you have a phenylalanine side chain, you have a favorable hydrophobic site. If you have a serine side chain, you will have a hydrogen bond acceptor site. These methods attempt to place small fragments in the active site so that one or more site points are satisfied. This will be clear when we see the next slide. In the method is diagrammatically represented. These methods are intended to build up a ligand from multiple combinations of fragments or from fitting the entire molecules that matches a suitable number of site points. How does this method works? First, the site points are generated for an active site. Say suppose this is an active site, you can see a carbonyl function here, you can see a carboxylate or a tryptophan residue. Okay. Now, there are these site points are generated. What are site points? So you place in front of a carbonyl group the hydrogen bond acceptor site points. In place of a carboxyl, again you place a hydrogen bond acceptors. In place of a hydrocarbon chain, here you place a hydrophobic site points. Again, this is an aromatic chain, so you place hydrophobic site points. This is an amino group, again you place a hydrogen bond acceptor in this case. So hydrogen bond, so in this diagram, the hydrogen bond and acceptors are denoted as line, and the hydrophobic sites are denoted as a dot, or marked with dot. Now, the method begins with placing a small prototype molecule such as a 2-amido amidine group, which is attached to the second position of the thiophene ring. So 2-amido thiophene is positioned so that it overlaps with the carboxyl group, so that it overlaps, the amidine function overlaps with the carboxyl group, and the thiophene overlaps with the hydrophobic site points here. So you have the hydrogen bond donors overlapping the hydrogen bond donor site points, and the thiophene ring overlapping with the hydrophobic site points. Now, as the method progresses, there are additional building blocks being added. Say isopropyl carbonyl group is attached to amidine to make contact with the additional site points. So you can have a carbonyl group which can act as a hydrogen bond acceptor, and it is overlapping with the hydrogen bond acceptors site points in, so that it can make a suitable interaction with the amine group here. And this isopropyl side chain, which is of hydrophobic nature, it is overlapping the hydrophobic side point and is making suitable interaction with the histidine side chain, or side chain of the histidine, the tryptophan ring. Sorry, this is an indole ring, so it is a tryptophan side chain. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this methods? It is fast as only those points that are near each other are compared. It is also versatile, that in the ligands may be constructed by fragment fashion. That means you can pick and choose between various fragments, and it such as a huge library of fragments. It is also amenable to customization, as the user can select the number of site points to be satisfied. So in earlier example, if you want to say that I want to make interaction only with the tryptophan residue and the carbonyl residue, because these are the important residues in the enzyme action or the receptor action. This is not so important, so you can say to the computer or the program that these are the important, you have to look only for this. So this reduces the time, and you can get a meaningful ligand as well, so that only this site points are satisfied and not these site points. So there's not a computationally expensive, wherein fragments to satisfy this are not considered. So you'll end up in a faster process. Now, these methods are highly dependent on correct positioning of the site points. If you are not positioning or selecting the site points, it can result in poor ligands. That means if your definition of the site points are not proper, then you are bound to get a poor ligand. So suppose these site points are somewhere not near to your carbonyl, or somewhere here in this point in the space of the active site, you are end up getting poorly fitting ligand. a poorly interacting ligand. Slow factor. This methods have a disadvantage of slope factor. That is, if all side points are considered, that is, in the earlier method, if all the side points are method, the method will be, then many fragments, if all side points are method are considered, then many useful fragments will be missed. And if large tolerances are allowed, search is slowed down. That means if you want to satisfy all the possible side points, there are many other fragments which cannot be considered, so that it is satisfying these two. So if a fragment is such that it is satisfying only this particular, say in this case, if you were to use uh, hydrophobic isopentyl group here with a thiophene. So this fragment will be missed because you are satisfying only the hydrophobic side points here. You are not satisfying the hydrogen bond acceptor or donor side points which is there. So instead of this amidine group, if you were to have an group, isopentyl group, that or a 2,3 pentyl group, then you will miss these points. So that is the slope factor. That is, if all side points are considered, then many useful fragments will be missed, because you have to satisfy all the side points. So which is not that isopentyl group will not satisfy the requirement for the hydrogen bond donor or acceptor. So that will be missed. And if you are allowing large tolerances, that is, you say that I will miss this side point. So it will consider the search is very much slow. Now, again, like whole molecule methods, this method also consider the rigid fragment. That is, only one conformation is stored in the database. So it will not allow for the some other conformation of the fragment to be searched, which may be useful in our ligand design. The example of side point connection method is LURI. LURI works in 3 stages, that is identification of interaction sites, then fitting molecular fragments, and then bridging these molecular fragments. We'll study each step in detail. Now, in this case, the HX is a hydrogen bond donor and AY is hydrogen bond acceptor. The dot indicates the aromatic interaction site. So these are the interaction sites. The place identify the interaction site. What are the interaction site? HX is one of the interaction site, which is the hydrogen bond donor. AY is the hydrogen bond acceptor interaction site, and these dots are the aromatic interaction sites. So in the vicinity of the aromatic, you will place an aromatic ring here, and it is also making a hydrogen bond donor interaction. Plus, again, in this vicinity of uh, hydrophobic sites or aromatic site, you are placing an aromatic ring. Plus, again, this carbonyl group, which is an hydrogen bond donor, sorry, the acceptor is placed near the hydrogen bond acceptor site. And in the third step, these molecules fragments are bridged using suitable linkers. We'll study each one in detail how this is done. First is the identification of interaction site. How are these interaction sites identified? First, the atoms are defined. That is, oxygen atoms and tertiary nitrogen atoms are identified as hydrogen bond acceptors. Any hydrogen attached to an electronegative atom such as oxygen, nitrogen is identified as a hydrogen bond donor. Aromatic and aliphatic are suitable to make van der Waals interactions. So these are identified suitably. Now, this interactions sites can then be defined based on this atom's definition. These are the positions in the binding site that define where a ligand atom. So, what are these interaction sites? These are the positions in the binding site that define where a ligand atom could be placed so as to interact with the above atoms. So how does this program does this? A program would identify the carbon or the methyl group in the binding site as an aliphatic carbon capable of taking part in a van der Waal interaction. So you have say alanine residue, which is CH3 side chain. So it identifies this CH3 as an aliphatic carbon. Now in the second step, now since the van der Waal interactions are non-directional, or the directional interactions are hydrogen bonding interactions are directional, but a van der Waal interaction is a non-directional interaction. So a sphere is constructed around the carbon with a radius of 4 angstrom. Why 4 angstrom? Because this is the ideal distance for such van der Waal interactions. After this, on the sphere, a number of points are then placed. A number of side points are placed to define the aliphatic interaction site, and these points are equally spaced. Generally 14 in this LUDI program is used. Regions of sphere which come very close to the binding site atoms, or which overlap, or which are very close to the binding site, which overlap. You can see these points are overlapping with the binding site atoms, and these points are very close to the binding point. So this sphere is trimmed such that these site points are rejected. The remaining points are then used as the aliphatic interaction sites. So this is how you define the interaction sites of the aliphatic chain. Remember the dots in the interaction sites, these were the dots which were defined as those. Now, as the hydrogen bonds are directional, it is important to define not only the relative distance between the ligand and the binding region, but also the relative orientation of the atoms. Now, this can be done by defining the hydrogen bond interaction site as a vector involving two atoms. Why a vector? Vector has a direction. Scalar or just magnitude. Vector is magnitude with your direction. It involves two atoms. The position of these atoms is then determined by the ideal bond length. How are this position of this atoms defined? By the ideal bond length and the bond angle required for the hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bonds are checked to ensure that they are no closer than 1.5 angstrom from any atom present in the binding site. If they are rejected. So these site points which are for the hydrogen bond which are placed near the vicinity of the binding site, as you can see in this case, this distance should be such that it is not coming within the range of 1.5 angstrom. If this is less than 1.5 angstrom, it is straight away rejected. If the binding site has a carbonyl group, then there are two possible orientation. If it is a binding site is a carbonyl group, then means it is a hydrogen bond acceptor. So there are two possible orientations for this depending on how the lone pairs are arranged. The lone pairs are arranged from 120 degrees to the pi bond which is there, this is the lone pairs which is interacting with the hydrogen. This hydrogen bond interaction site, that is HX. HX is an hydrogen bond donor in this case. This is how it is determined by a distance of 1.9 angstrom, and it is placed at an angle of 120 degrees. And this bond is 180 degrees, the hydrogen bond. If the binding site has an hydrogen bond donor present, such as an hydroxy group, then the interaction site AY, that is hydrogen bond acceptor, would be determined in this fashion. Again, the distance is maintained at 1.9 angstrom, and this is the angle which is there, 120 degrees. So atom is placed, this interaction site is placed at an angle of 180 degree, and this bond angle is the actual hydrogen bond angle is 180 degree. Now the stage 2, fitting the molecular fragments. The LUDI program accesses a library of several hundred molecular fragments. You can see it has various thousands of these molecular fragments. These are typically chosen from 5 to 30 atoms in size and usually rigid in structure because fitting process assumes a rigid factor. Rigid fragment. The atoms which are going to be used in the fitting programs have to be predetermined for each fragment, and the interaction sites onto which each atom can be fitted also have to be predetermined. That means you have to predetermine what are the interaction sites I want to generate and what are the ligand atoms which I want to construct. Say suppose for methyl carbon of the acetone fragment are identified as aliphatic and can only be fitted onto aliphatic interaction sites, and the carbonyl is defined as the hydrogen bond donor, the hydrogen bond acceptor, and can only be fitted on the corresponding hydrogen uh, bonding donor site. Now, in the next step, the best fit will be determined. The placing the fragment, you have to see that not only it is just inserting in the cavity, it should have a best fit. This you can see, this is an example of a better fit wherein if you are placing an acetone group here, the methyl groups are interacting with the hydrophobic sites, and the carbonyl is an hydrogen bond acceptor, which is fitting with a hydrogen bond donor in this case, and it is a suitable angle for that. So you can see it is 180 degrees between this, and you have 120 degrees between this. If you were to place this acetone group here, sure it is having the hydrogen bonding interaction, but it is not satisfying the uh, requirement for the hydrophobic site. It is missing the hydrophobic site by a distance. Stage 3 is fragment bridging. Now, the stage 3, once you have identified in stage 1, you have identified the interaction sites. In stage 2, you have fitted the molecular fragment so it satisfies that particular interaction site. Now, these fragments are of no use if it is not suggesting a sensible ligand in this case. It should be not fragment, it should be a ligand. So, the third step is the fragment bridging in this case. The program first identifies the molecular fragments that are close to each other. So you can see in this, the pyrrole ring and the benzene ring are very close to each other. This now defines the link site. How it is link site? This identifies the closest hydrogen and it identifies the link site for the bridges. So you identify the link points here. Then once a suitable bridge is found from the bridge library, as you have a fragment library, the LUDI program also has a bridge library, which we'll see the next slide. Then a final molecule is done. This bridge is, in this case, is ethylene bridge is added. So it is suitable bonding. So these are the types of molecular bridges which has uses. So that is the linking fragments are also there as opposed to the actual fragment. The bridges also, there is a library of bridges in this LUDI program. The next type of fragment based method is fragment connection methods. In this, isolated fragments are priorly selected by some different methods, say active site analysis you have seen, and these isolated fragments are then connected using a scaffold or a linker. Although linker may contribute to the binding and may contribute to the binding, however, favorable contributions from the linker are not generally considered as a critical part of the compound evaluation. So even if the linker is not making any favorable interaction, it is not rejected. So rather, an acceptable linker merely needs to avoid bumping into the receptor. So it is not the binding interaction. It should not. It is not the condition that the binding interaction should improve, It is just that it should be an acceptable linker wherein it just avoiding the bumping into receptor and poses a suitable geometry so that these fragments, the isolated fragments, are stitched together. So this is how diagrammatic representation is done. This isolated set of fragments are identified using, say, either grid or other methods of active site analysis methods. So in this can see you have benzene, ammonium group, and a carbonyl group or a formaldehyde are placed. Then this fragment connection method, what it does is connect by inserting a tricyclic linker between them. It is not necessary that this should contribute to the overall binding to the, or it should improve the overall binding interaction. It should be just that it is not bumping into the receptor. So if this receptor was in a shape like this, if the receptor shape would have been like this instead of this, or more correctly like this, it would bump into the receptor site here, binding site. So this is not the case in this. So it would bump into this. So if this is the case where if the receptor shape is such that is in this fashion, this tricyclic linker now would bump into this. So precaution is taken. The acceptable linker would be such that it will not bump into this. So this is how it is linked in. So the linker requirement is that it should not bump into the active site. So what are the advantages? The information about the favorable fragment is previously known. So you are in this method, you are connecting the previously known fragment. So the time is saved in this case. If cyclic scaffolds are considered, the final compound suggested is rigid, thereby lowering the entropy. So generally, the rigid compounds have lower entropy. So that means it would again contribute to the delta G of the binding. For hydrocarbons, if the linker is placed as a hydrocarbon, then flexibility is also taken into consideration, allowing multiple conformations to be stored, which is a major advantage over the previous methods which we have known, that is of the whole molecule method and the prior method to this, wherein the rigid conformation methods were stored in the database. In this case, the flexibility is also taken into consideration, allowing multiple conformations to be stored in the database. Now, this adds to its disadvantage that if multi-conformational database is used, the method will search for every conformation, and as a result, the search is slowed down. Now, a good scaffold may be rejected if some portion of it bumps into the receptor. As we have seen, the if the receptor shape in the previous slide was such that the tricyclic ring is bumping into it, although it is connecting the fragments well, since it is bumping, it is not considered. The molecules suggested are generally complicated and synthetically impractical. So this is the major disadvantage, that the molecules which are suggested by this type of method are generally complicated. It is not synthetically feasible. If you see that the structure, you will say generally you get structures with asterine group, which is not normally found in or disulfide groups, which is not normally there in the small molecules as such. Example of side point connection method is Caveat. This is the program. It is designed to identify scaffolds that link together any number of isolated ligand fragments. How it is does is by representing each molecule from a 3D source database. The database is a 3D database by setting a pairwise combination of specific bonds. how each of which is treated as a unit vector. The location of each vector is defined by the base atom B, and its orientation is determined by the bond between the base and the tip of P atom. Okay. This will be clear when we talk of the example here. Say if you want to determine or design a peptidomimetic. So this is a peptide inhibitor. Okay. Now, peptide inhibitors suffer from a major disadvantage of bioavailability, that is, it is degraded in the GI tract once it is consumed. So, generally, the peptide inhibitors are designed such that, or it are replaced by the peptidomimetics. How you can design the peptidomimetics in this case? So, to devise a peptide mimic, the C alpha bonds, which are there, C alpha and C beta bonds, are represented as vectors in this case. So this is the base atom B which we are talking, and the orientation of this bond is represented by a T1 atom. This relationship between the vectors is determined by the, and relationship between these three atoms is determined by a vector pairwise combination. So there will be a B1 B2 combination, B2 B3 combination, and B3 B1 combination. Now this combination which fits the source or the database of 3D structure is served as a template for design. You can see from this example, you get this thing, a molecule which is fitting this template in this case. The third method of fragment based is sequential build-up method. In this methods, the ligands are constructed piece by piece. The construction may not be linear. That means it is not a continuous form. That is, each new pieces may be added anywhere on the existing ligand. If you have a say benzene, at any position of a benzene ring, the ligands may be constructed. The fragments may be constructed, say at ortho position or a meta position or a para position. So some technique use atoms as the fundamental building unit. So on a benzene ring, you will add one carbon at a time and go on building such that it is making a favorable interaction with the receptor side. Or some methods directly add certain fragments, a formaldehyde group, which is a small hydrogen bonding. Or some may use a larger fragment, that is, instead of adding one carbon at a time to form a benzene ring, the benzene ring is attached to another benzene ring to form a naphthalene ring in this case. So some techniques perform conformation check. This is how the building units are defined, and some techniques perform conformation searching to optimize the location of new fragments. That is, the fragments or conformations which are there are searched thoroughly. You search for different conformation such that it is optimized the location of new fragment, whereas other techniques arbitrarily select the orientation of the candidate fragment. So this conformational searching, that means it searches for different conformations in the database of the particular, say, again, I will take the example of chair and board conformation of the cyclohexane ring. So it will search for both the chair and the board conformation of the cyclohexane ring, and say if the chair conformation is fitting the location of the binding site properly, optimized location, so it will be selected. Or it can be directly take chair conformation from the orientation of the candidate fragments. Now this method suffers from a drawback of speed versus coverage. If the program builds the ligand quickly, it may fail to consider all the possibilities of building block attachment sites and conformation. That means if the program builds, it may fail to consider all possible. That means the program is building the, that is the program is building the ligand very quickly because it is failing to consider all possibilities of building block or the attachment sites or conformation. If the more exhaustive search is done, the method will be fairly slow. That is, if it is searching all the conformations or building points, building blocks, and the conformation and the attachment sites, It will be fairly slow because even a few fragments may be attached to a ligand in many locations and orientation. Suppose you have this ligand site and you have a carbonyl group here. So if a OH bond is a fragment containing OH is considered, if an exhaustive search is done, that means it will consider all possible orientations of this. That means either in this direction, in this direction, and in this direction. And it would also consider whether it is bumping into the receptor or the other fragments, how it is bumping. That is also being done. So if more exhaustive search is done, this method will be fairly slow. And conversely, if it is not considering all possible this thing, so that means it is ligand is built very quickly and it is failing to consider the all possible and it may miss a particular fragment here. Again, the advantages and disadvantages of this method. Smaller and efficient ligands are possible because each fragment is selected based on its ability to contribute to the binding. There are fewer misses since it is possible to perform detailed conformation analysis as each piece is added sequentially. Uh, There are disadvantages though, that is, there are dead zones. So open these what are dead zones? These are open spaces in active site where the enzyme contacts are not possible. That is, there is no interaction site available in that. So if a fragment may not be selected in this region because they lack any favorable interactions. Although the fragment may be useful, but since it is not having interaction with the enzyme, it may be missed out. Now, it also suffers from computational explosion because as I have said, the hydroxy group in the previous slide, we have mentioned that a huge number of ways to piece together a small fragments in an active site. So you can stitch. There are not only that the hydroxy group can be placed in various types of orientations because all this is considered that OH can be connected to another fragment and in number of ways. Say the OH is connected to benzene at second position or the third position. So it will consider all possible positions on the benzene ring and this will lead to an combinatorial explosion. Say and plus say suppose you have, this is one of the example, or say suppose you have A in the active site. This is the A already being placed in active site, A fragment being placed in the active site. Now you are sequentially building that by adding B, C, and D. Now this combination of ABCD can be ABCDE or ACBDE or AEBCD. You can see there is a combinate that there is various permutations and combinations by which that A molecule or A fragment can be joined to uh, B and C. So this can be CBA or any other. So there is the method, although allows for a various customization, that is, it can search various conformations of that particular fragment. Plus, it can search for the various orientations of that fragment, not only the say in chair conformation and boat conformation of cyclohexane. It is not only searching the conformation of that, it is also searching the how that cyclohexane ring has to be oriented with respect to the active site at which angle, say at 90 degrees, say 30 degrees, or 20 degrees with respect to the say another hydrophobic alanine residue in this case. So so CH3 with respect to CH3, that is CH bond, whether that cyclohexane ring has to be placed at 120 degrees angle or 60 degrees angle. So it will search all possible orientations and plus it will search for the chair conformation as well as the boat conformation of that cyclohexane ring, and plus that cyclohexane ring now may be connected to a different benzene ring. So at what position, say, of say benzoic acid, at what position, say ortho position or a para position or a beta position can. So you can see the number of combinations and permutations. This leads to a combinatorial explosion in this case. The example of sequential buildup method is a sprout. Now, this program fits the interaction sites, which are atom-sized spheres. This sphere generally represents a volume of space within which the binding site, within the binding site into which a ligand can be. So, it is a point in the space in the binding site in which the ligand atom should be placed in order to interact favorably through hydrogen bonding, as such in this, or a van der Waal interaction when aromatic or hydrophobic side points spheres are present. Now, this Sprout uses templates to represent the molecular fragment. How it represents the molecular fragments? Each template is defined by vertices and edges rather than by atoms and bonds. This is very important. We'll see this in the later slides. What is a vertex? Vertex is a generalized atom. It doesn't mention about whether the atom is oxygen uh, or a nitrogen or an hydrogen or a sulfur or any other carbon. So it does mention the hybridization type of the molecule, that is sp, sp2 or sp3, while an H represents a single bond or a double bond or a triple bond depending on the hybridization of the vertices, obviously. So consider an example here. You have a six-membered ring type of structure here, wherein these are sp3 hybridized and these two vertices are sp2 hybridized. So you can have all these combinations of molecular fragments. So this allows for one template. You can have n number of molecules which can do can are possible. So when it is searching for molecular fragments, it will first fit this into this. We'll see this in more detail later, but for now, it will fit this. And depending on the interaction with the binding side here, it will modify as carbon or the oxygen or nitrogen. So this is allows this type of designing a fragment template allows for the program to have a multitude of various fragments being considered. Now, the generation of structure usually takes place in two stages. In first stage, the emphasis is on generating fragment templates. That is only the sp3, sp. Okay, there is no consideration of binding interactions at this stage. So it is not considering any binding set. So in this place, only the in this sphere, first it is placed a sphere, and the next step, the atoms, only the atom types or the hybridization type is considered here. Say sp3 hybridized, in this case, it is considered, or this tertiary butyl, or this may be a cyclohexene ring or a benzene ring or a piperazine ring. You don't know, because the binding interaction is not considered. It is just placing the fragment template here. And this selection is purely random basis and positioned by placing one of the vertices at the center of sphere. So it places one of the vertices at the center of sphere. You can see the problem of combinatorial explosion here. This vertices can be placed uh, this vertices can be placed here, this vertex can be placed in, if this vertex is placed here such that, so this linkage will be different now, and you can see the orientations of this thing. So if this is a cyclohexane ring, the boat and chair conformation will alter the orientation as well with respect to it. In next step, uh, The next step is that these templates are grown. First, in earlier versions of Sprout, the further fragment templates were added sequentially. So you can add sequentially the templates. Okay, you can see. Or, uh, but in the current version, the fragment templates are placed at all spheres, and the fragment templates are placed at all spheres, like we have shown in here. It plus in the current version, what it does is it places all this and then it joins it. In earlier versions, what it does that it places first the fragment at this point, then it goes on building in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, and it completes. But in current versions, what it does, it places all possible fragments in the uh, spheres and connects it randomly, and it is grown towards each other until they are finally linked to each other. In the second stage is to create specific molecule from the molecular templates. Remember, in the first step, only the vertices were placed into the center of sphere. That is, the only the hybridization type and the bond type was mentioned depending on the hybridization this thing, uh, case. So now in the second stage, you replace those vertices with suitable atoms so as to allow the hydrogen bonding interactions and van der Waals interaction in this case. So as you can see here, say this is a serine residue here, and say this is lysine, lysine residue here, NH residue. You can see uh, this only uh, sp2 hybridized vertex was present here, but now this has been changed to oxygen such that it can have a hydrogen bond interaction in this place, similarly at this place in this case. For example, if a vortex is located within a sphere that requires a hydrogen bond acceptor, an oxygen or nitrogen can be added at this position. Now, not only this, the Sprout has the capacity to identify certain structural features that might be unrealistic and then modify them. For example, now you can see the molecular template here. It is sp3, sp2, sp2, and sp3, and this is the sp3 vertex which is placed near the interaction point for hydrogen bond. When it is adding atoms, say places hydroxy, or hydroxy is placed near a double bond, which is an enol type of now. This is since because this is sp2 and sp2, this will be a double bond. Now, what will happen? Now, whenever you have a enol, what happens that it is tautomerized to a ketone. So this is a ketoenol tautomer. Now, this is a hydrogen bond donor in this case. Okay. Now it is changing to an hydrogen bond acceptor. So the interaction is now changing. Later would not this would not act as a hydrogen bond donor in this case. Now the program can modify an enol to an carboxylic acid, which still can act as a hydrogen bond. So what it will does, it will place this carbon, replace this carbon with an oxygen, such that it is an intelligent software which takes into consider any tautomerism effect is there, wherein the molecule as such is unrealistic. You never get an enolic compound isolated unless you are using very any specific conditions to be to isolate that compound. Generally, the ketone function is thermodynamically stable, so this will be isolated. So, and if it is a ketone, then you are changing the property of the interaction point, in this case from the hydrogen bond donor to hydrogen bond acceptor. So if you modify this particular group to a carboxylic acid such that only you have to change, because this allows now instead of sp2 hybridized carbon, the program can now place an sp2 hybridized oxygen in this case. This program has also ability to modify the structures that they are more readily synthesized. This is very difficult to synthesize, but you can modify by changing the carbon to an oxygen in this case. Because the fragment template here is describing only sp3, 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 sp3 everywhere. So any which atom type can be described. So this can be synthesized by reacting with an alkoxide and alkyl halide. You can see here. The last method is random connection and disconnection method. This method contains some features of sequential buildup, but also covers methods of altering. So in sequential buildup, what you get is a final compound. However, these are similar to sequential buildup method in that it places the molecular fragments uh, and it goes on building up the molecular fragments. But it is also clever by altering the bond connectivity of ligand as they are being constructed. It can break that bond and add another fragment and look for the possible interaction, binding interaction. So these methods begin with a soup of building blocks, either individual atoms or slightly larger fragments. So you can have carbons, hydrogens being added as into the active site, or it can be slightly larger fragments such as formaldehyde, acetone, or a water, or a hydroxy, or a hydrocarbon chain. Now, building blocks may be held fixed or allowed to move under molecular dynamics protocol, and the this atom types which are there, that is particle based methods, may have the ability to change the element type. So as in case of sequential buildup, only sp3 vertices was there, and then depending on the interaction it was changed to either oxygen or nitrogen or carbon. So similarly in this type of random connection and disconnection method, it has the only the it has the change the element type. Not only that, it can also change the hydrogen hybridization type and the bonding pattern. So what are the advantages? It is the randomness generates diverse set of molecules without any bias. But disadvantage is that it may generate again a very synthetically impractical molecules. The example of a random connection and disconnection method is concerts. This is the program. This program usually uses small organic fragments, dozens and a few hundred copies of each as the building block. So if you have the active site, what it does, similar to the grid program, it will place uh, various organic fragments, various types of, say, 12, a dozen means a 12 type of 12 different types of fragments and few hundred copies of that. So 12 into 100, 100 building blocks would be there. Now they are mixed together in the active site so as to have only weak repulsion for each other, so that come quite close to each other but cannot overlap. Say suppose you have, again I will take the example of grid. These were in that grid, it was such that the individual fragments were transparent to each other. That means it does not, it could overlap in this case. However, in this method, there is some accountability for weak repulsion. So that come quite close to each other but cannot overlap. The overlap feature is not there. And now molecular dynamics takes place on the fragment within the protein. Now, what is molecular dynamics? You uh, simulate the motion of the molecules with respect to the, it is a kind of energy minimization protocol, you can see. So molecular dynamics takes place on the fragment with the protein being fixed, and whenever two fragments come with reasonable bonding geometry, the bond length, that is bond lengths and bond, they are joined. So what you do is you have, see the active site here, and you have various, say these are the building blocks which is there, few copies of this, and a molecular dynamics program is done, wherein the protein is held fixed. The protein atoms are not changed. However, this can go here in this direction. This can go this in this direction. Okay. Now, whenever this fragment, say x1 and this x are coming in close contact with each other, such that they can have a suitable bond length. Say for sp3 carbons, it is 1.53 angstroms, and uh, say at an angle of 109, so it will be bonded. Okay, so this will be an sp3 hybridized carbon. So this is carbon, sp3 hybridized carbon, and this is hydrogen. So ch bond 1 point, say somewhere around 1.53, and the angle should be 120. So this two or these three atoms are joined. So whenever such optimum bonding length and bonding angles are there, these are continuously moving, mind you. These are continuously moving, and these are joined to each other. These are connected to each other, and then uh, if the after connecting those atoms, if the energy of the total system goes down, the bond formation is accepted. So the molecule is now is connected. All energy terms, that is both intermolecular and intramolecular, are calculated as in a standard molecular dynamics run. And if the after joining, if the energy is going up, it is rejected, so it is disconnected. Now it will search for another fragment to come in close vicinity of the one, say x1 molecule. Say x4 will now come in the vicinity of the x1 molecule, and if that system of the energy of the total system is now going down, that is accepted. Now, once joined, these two fragments cannot be separated once this is joined, unless some other compensating bond takes place. Say x1, uh, so you have uh, the active side here, and say x1 is connected to x2. Okay. Now what it does, once joined, this two cannot be separated unless some other compensating bond takes place. So if this x1 is again connected to x3, and what happens that uh, it is increasing the or total system of the energy is now going further down. Now if you want to check whether this this is due to this being joined to x2 or this x1 being joined to x3, so it will disconnect this. So this is what some other compensating bond takes place. So if this is x1 and x3 is less than x1 and x2, so this will be retained, and which is further less than x1, x2, x3. So if addition of x3, what happens that if energy is going down considerably, and what the system does is it disconnects this, and it checks for the energy of the system when x1 and x3 is bonded. It also checks the energy of the system when x1 and x2 is bonded, and also checks the energy of the system when I say the protein plus the ligand in this case. So it is determined by the delta G of uh, complex minus protein. We will get the energy of the ligand binding in this case. So where were we? We were saying that it calculates the x1 x3 bond system and x1 x2 bond system, and the combination of x3 x1 and x2. So if the x1 x3 energy is less than both x1 x2 x2 and x1 x2, that means x2 is not required in this case. So this bond will be now disconnected, and x1 x3 bond will be retained. So this is how the random connection and disconnection is done, wherein the uh, at each step the total energy of the system is considered, and when you are considering the energy system, it is both intermolecular plus intermolecular are calculated. that completes the de novo ligand design program chapter.